Fortune's Progeny, The Ascent, Episode 12, The Summit and the Gift. The vault chimed with a tone Trent had never heard before, deeper, more resonant, a sound designed to command attention. The message was a summons. All remaining contenders, prepare for a consolidated review, virtual conference, 48 hours, mandatory attendance. 3 days later, Trent sat at his small desk in his shared house, a discreet earpiece in place, his laptop screen dark. The room was quiet, the housemates either at work or asleep. He had locked the door, a rare act of privacy in the communal space, and had placed a Do Not Disturb sign on the outside handle. The protocol demanded his full attention. The audio channel opened. He heard the faint rustle of others connecting, the distant clearing of a throat, the soft shuffle of papers. He could almost feel their presence, these invisible cousins, their breathing just as measured and tense as his own. They were strangers, rivals, and in some strange way, comrades in an ordeal none of them had chosen. A moderator's voice, neutral and digitally smoothed, began. This is the mid-protocol review. Each contender will be addressed in turn. Identity of others will remain masked. Assessment will cover 3 pillars: personal financial discipline, capital stewardship, and strategic insight. They began with a contender designated Contender Gamma. The moderator listed achievements: personal debt eliminated ahead of schedule, test sum aggressively invested in a portfolio of green tech startups showing strong paper gains. Then came the strategic insight review. Your proposal for the GreenWise challenge focused on aggressive digital marketing and conversion funnel optimization. It was technically proficient, but lacked differentiation. Your proposal for the Atelier division recommended closure and reallocation of assets. It was financially sound, but lacked depth of understanding of non-financial equity. The board notes your probationary status remains in effect. The feedback was clinical, devastating. Trent heard a sharp, quickly stifled intake of breath over the line. Gamma's reaction, quickly controlled. Next was Contender Beta. Their profile was the opposite of Gamma's: conservative personal debt repayment, test sum in government bonds, minimal growth. Their GreenWise proposal had been about loyalty points. Their Atelier proposal was the hybrid museum shop model. The moderator's judgment was cool and precise. Exhibits excessive risk aversion. Stewardship is not synonymous with stasis. Insights lack creative ambition and transformative potential. The board recommends a significant strategic pivot in the remaining term. Then his turn, Contender Theta. The moderator listed his stats in the same neutral tone: steady progress on the Foundation Step 2 debt avalanche, a fully funded starter emergency fund, test sum in a broad market index fund with returns tracking the benchmark. Then the pivot. Strategic Insight on GreenWise was noted for its community-centric, systems-thinking approach. Strategic Insight on the Atelier division has been approved for implementation at the board level. It demonstrated an exceptional ability to align ethical legacy with sustainable practice, reframing a cultural liability into a strategic asset. The board commends this contribution. The silence on the line was absolute. Trent could feel the shock radiating from the other 2 anonymous connections. He had not just survived the review, he had, in the eyes of the protocol, pulled ahead. The Atelier approval was not just a personal victory, it was a public acknowledgement that his philosophy had institutional weight. The moderator continued, addressing all of them. The field is now 3. The final phase will integrate these pillars. You will be given operational oversight of a small, live Aethelgard asset. Your performance will be measured on tangible metrics and qualitative judgment. Prepare for a transition from theory to practice. The call ended. Trent removed the earpiece, his ears ringing in the sudden quiet. The field was 3. He was no longer the dark horse. He was the one to catch. He didn't tell anyone about the review. Not Maya, not Silas, not Leo. The information was classified, the stakes too high for casual confidence. But the energy of it followed him through the following days, a quiet, humming certainty beneath the surface of his ordinary routines. The avalanche payment went through on schedule. The personal loan balance dropped below $1,500. The test sum, boring and steady, ticked upward. He was becoming, he realized, a machine, a disciplined, relentless, covenant-driven machine. And the machine was working. The next vault communication arrived 3 days later. It was not a new challenge or a status update. It was a single, unexpected message. Operational Phase. Assignment. The file attached was a dossier on a property Trent had never heard of, the Aethelgard residence, the Highlands. It was a sprawling, historically significant family estate in the mountains, used occasionally for board retreats and family gatherings. Its financials showed it was a beautiful, massive money pit. Maintenance costs were astronomical. It was occupied by a long-time live-in caretaker, a man named Alden, and was rarely used to capacity. The directive was simple. Assume oversight. Propose a sustainable operational model within 90 days. You may visit once. This is a test of practical stewardship, not theoretical insight. Trent closed the dossier and stared at the wall of his small room. This was different. This wasn't a garden center or a furniture workshop. This was a home, a family home, weighted with history and expectation. He couldn't propose turning it into a corporate retreat or a public museum. It had to retain its dignity, its private character, but it could not bleed cash indefinitely. He thought of Alistair's covenant, custodians of time. The Highlands was not an asset to be optimized. It was a vessel to be stewarded. The question was not how to make it profitable, but how to make its cost purposeful. The visit to the Highlands was scheduled for the following weekend. A car would pick him up from the shared house. He would have 1 day to walk the grounds, meet Alden, and absorb the weight of the place. In preparation, he researched. He found old photographs of the estate in its heyday, large family gatherings, children playing on the lawn, Alistair himself standing on the front porch, his expression as severe as ever. He found expense reports listing the cost of maintaining the aging geothermal plant, the slate roof, the extensive gardens. It was a beautiful anchor, and anchors were expensive. He called Maya that evening, not to tell her about the assignment, but to hear her voice.
What would you do if you had to take care of a place that mattered to people, but it was costing too much to keep?
She was quiet for a moment.
You'd find out what it was actually for, not what it costs, but what it does. If it's just sitting there, it's a museum. If it's serving a purpose, it's a home. You can't budget for a purpose you haven't defined.
It was the answer he needed. The Highlands was not a problem to be solved. It was a purpose to be discovered. He opened the stewardship binder and wrote a single line. Entry, the Highlands. Not an asset, a question. What is it for? The answer will determine everything.